Hello friends, I hope you had a good July. Happy August. Today I'm sharing the books that I read in August and we have a lot. So let's hop into this. I have sorted this video into 3 categories. We have cozy mysteries, like general mysteries, and then thrillers. So definitely feel free to skip around if you're more interested in one genre over the other. Let's go ahead and start with our cozy mystery. Okay, so I did actually have a couple of DNFs throughout each genre this month, which was kind of disappointing. This first DNF I did return to my library. It's called Scone Cold Dead by Caitlin Dunnett, and this one is really interesting. It follows a main character who is like an Irish dancer, but I guess in the first book she gets injured, and this one she's kind of solving mysteries and stuff like that, and it sounded really fun. It is the second book in the series. My library didn't have book 1. I just didn't love the writing style. It felt very stiff, and I really couldn't have cared less about the characters. I just wasn't super interested in the characters' lives or like the plot line that was developing, so I ended up DNFing it only maybe like 50 pages in. I just wasn't super entertained, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mood, but it wasn't for me. One that I did pick up, I had this in my physical TBR cart and I'm so glad I bought this, is Mimi Lee Gets a Clue by Jennifer J. Chow. This is the first book in the Sassy Cat mystery series. I loved this. And I was really worried because in this one, her cat Marshmallow, Mimi Lee, is a pet groomer. She's opening up a pet grooming salon in LA. Following her dreams, she's very excited. She's got a matchmaking mother that she needs to thwart, and she has a cat, Marshmallow, who picks her out, like as cats do. They kind of find you, I guess. And Marshmallow talks, but just to her. So I was a little worried because I'm not the biggest on, I don't know, supernatural, but this was just delightfully whimsical. It was just the right touch of whimsy, and it was fun because you got to get clues figured out with Mimi and Marshmallow. So Marshmallow has access to things that maybe a human couldn't get to, but a cat could. So I actually really liked that. And in this one, she's going after and figuring out what happened to this local breeder who had allegedly mistreated his puppies and stuff like that, and someone offs him, and Mimi gets involved in the case with Marshmallow along her side. I liked this. This was endearing. This was sweet. I really enjoyed this. This just had so many good characters in it. It had a really fun, feisty, just lighthearted writing style. I really enjoyed this, and I just checked out book 2 from my library because I'm so interested in continuing this series. So this was a big hit for me this month. Another one that some of you may be surprised I liked. Again, I'm not a big supernatural cozy, but this was so good, and that's Be My Ghost by Carol J. Perry. I don't know who I am, but this was so good. So this is the first in the Haunted Haven mystery series, and this takes place just before Halloween. It was perfect. Our main character is Maureen. She's a sportswear buyer, and her career hits a snag right before Halloween. She gets this crazy inheritance from this person in Florida she's never heard of, and they've left her this haunted bed and breakfast. And it's really, the business is having a hard time. It's failing. So you get to learn a lot about the business, which I personally really enjoyed. And so Maureen takes her failed service dog because he was too friendly, Finn, moves down to Florida, and they're gonna revitalize this B&B. And then one of the guests ends up dead. It's a murder. She gets involved in it. The supernatural elements are subtle. So the B&B and the town itself is haunted. You will have some encounters with ghosts. However, the supernatural elements don't really add to the mystery or solve the mystery, which is my criticism sometimes of supernatural cozies, is I want it to feel like I could still solve it even without the ghosts, and I feel like Maureen still could have solved this. So I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait. Again, I really want to read the next one. The next one is a Christmas cozy. I didn't get to it in my Christmas cozy mystery reading vlog, which I'll link above if you want to check it out for Christmas in July. But I plan on reading that this fall / near Christmas. I can't wait. And the Florida setting was just really fun, especially for a fall spooky vibe since it's so hot out. You still got to enjoy the Halloween aspect, but it's in a warm setting, which was interesting. Speaking of Christmas in July, so I did link the vlog above, so if you want more in-depth reviews of these, definitely check that out, as well as some delicious baking. I made a lemon pie and these cookie bars, which are so good, so definitely check that vlog out. I had such a fun time with it. But I read 2 books from the Christmas Tree Farm mystery series. I read Stalking Around the Christmas Tree by Jacqueline Frost, which is book 4, which is where Beach Bum Bookworm Tiffany actually gets killed off because she was, I think, the author put her into the plot, which is really cool. So if you're familiar with her channel, that's just a fun tidbit. I didn't know that until I started this, and I was so excited. And then I also read an e-arc, I'll Be Home for Mischief, because that was part of our Christmas in July reading, like buddy read, and I read that on an ebook, which is pretty unusual for me to read an ebook, but I did really enjoy it. Both of these, if you're looking for the ultimate Christmas cozy mystery series, this is it. Each of the mysteries takes place at Christmas. The setting is Holly White and her family's reindeer farms. They have all these reindeer games. There's Christmas trees, there's an inn, there's this cat named Cindy Lou Who. Excuse me, that's adorable. I love the Grinch. You can see here, this one here, book 4, involves the Nutcracker Ballet and a ballerina named Tiffany, the lead, who comes to town and gets murdered. And then the second one, the I'll Be Home for Mischief, which is book 5 in the series, involves this like gingerbread, making like the largest gingerbread man in the world competition, and something goes awry, someone is found dead, all of that. And I really like this one because this was actually leading up to Holly's wedding, which was really sweet, and I just feel like each of the conclusions for these were so high stakes, especially book 5. I was on the edge of my seat. I was just like I was holding my breath at points. I also got completely fooled by the red herring in book 5. This one I did put together in time, but book 5 got me really good with the mystery. So both of these were excellent, like 4 or 5-star reads for me. Easy. I would so strongly recommend this series. A DNF for me, unfortunately, was In Peppermint Peril by Joy Avon. This is a tea and read mystery series. I really wanted to love this. Not only is there a Boston Terrier, which is my favorite dog breed. I grew up with them. They're like family kind of dogs. I just adore them. They're so cute. This one has a Boston Terrier in it. And it's bookish, and it's got tea, and it's a Christmas cozy. But I only read a handful of chapters before I DNF'd this, and I was actually talking with Storm from Storm Reads about this before our live stream the other night, and what she said really stuck with me, which is that she didn't like how this book just jumped into things. Like, there was no setup. You didn't really know what was going on. Like, the main character's just kind of heading into catering, and there's not really any, like, you don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's just kind of odd. It felt very rushed, felt very hurried. I just wasn't even feeling the Christmassy vibes, even though this is clearly a Christmas cozy. I mean, this cover screams Christmas. So I was just really bummed about that. I ended up putting it aside pretty early because I just wasn't enjoying it. Some non-Christmas cozies is The English Breakfast Murder by Laura Childs. This is part of the Tea Shop mystery. I read this for Summerween, which I'll link the video up above if you want to check it out. And this one involves such an interesting theme. It takes place in Charleston. Our main character is Theodosia. She owns a tea shop. I love her and her employees. They all have excellent subplots and storylines and personalities. And in this one, she's helping one of her employees at this volunteer event, and they're helping sea turtles who are endangered get into the ocean safely, which was really interesting. And as someone who lives in the Southwest and I'm not near like an ocean, I found that to just be super fascinating. There's a lot about treasure hunting in this one. And I always feel like, I say like these are very like cultured cozies. Like, there's always a lot about art and antiques and like history in these, which I really love, and I also love tea. So if you're looking for just a really great time, I've enjoyed every tea shop mystery I've read so far. So this is book 4. I've enjoyed all 4 that I've read so far, and I'm planning on continuing this series. I'm really flying through it. The mysteries are always really well paced as well, which I really appreciate. And there's a dog named Earl Grey. It's so cute. One I loved, and I thought I would like this, but I loved it, is Murder in the Mystery Suite by Ellery Adams. This is a book retreat mystery series. This is my dream to visit a place like this. It's called Storybook Resort, and it is a resort themed for book lovers. And in this one, they're doing a murder mystery event, and then of course someone actually ends up murdered. But there's like a scavenger hunt, there's all these murder mystery guests, there's all these people dressed up as different like famous detectives and characters. There's lots of like mystery, like classic mystery references, which I love. And then Jane and her family have a fascinating connection and history with Storytime Resort. So if you like bookish cozies, I really don't want to give anything away because I went into this blind. Just read this. It was so good. It was so cute. There's also a really cute cat right here, which you can see. This was just lovely. I absolutely flew through this. Jane is also a mother. She has 2 twin boys who are, what are they, like 7 or 8, something around there. So that was kind of fun to see as well. She named them Hemingway and Fitzgerald, which I think as their first names. And I was kind of like, that's a long name. I don't know. But it's just fun. It was just so fun. It was so heavily bookish themed in every possible way, especially this one with the mystery themed, and I loved it. And I feel like a broken record. I either loved it or I DNF'd it apparently in this category. And the other one I loved is A Shake Shop Mystery, Spoon to be Dead by Dana Mentink. And I have a question for all of you. Is this the last book in this series? Please let me know, because I'm I think it is. There's like a reader's note at the end and it sounded like it was the finale to this cozy mystery series, and if it is, I'm going to be so sad because every book in this series has been 5 stars for me. The mysteries are excellent. Trinidad Jones is the main character. This focuses a lot on found family because she's actually, in the first book, she's just become a divorcee and her husband's like a crook, and he actually had other ex-wives in Upper Sprocket, Oregon, where she's moving to open a shake shop. She's got this property from him. The other ex-wives have also got property in the area from this like not so great husband, and they kind of become found family for each other, and there's just so many lovely moments. There's also a sweet dog in this named Noodles. Come on, Noodles, that is cute. I would name my dog Noodles. The shake shop descriptions are delicious. This one had really interesting like hot cocoa bombs because they're making desserts and catering for a steamboat party, which was really cool. This has so many good elements. I can't explain to you how connected I am to these characters and their subplots and their stories. Is this the last book in the series? Because I am truly so sad if it is. I didn't know if it is the last book. I didn't know that going in, and so when I finished and got to the reader's note, I was like, no, am I understanding this right? So I don't know, but it's lovely. The Oregon setting, there's one that takes place during the fall before this. This one's Christmassy. It's so beautiful. It's so seasonal. Delicious with the shake shop. The town is gorgeous and small and very friendly and cozy. The people are lovely. There's just such found family in this. I adore it. I'm really hoping it's not the last one, but we'll see. Jumping in to general mysteries, there are definitely some that are kind of cozy in here, so stay tuned if you like cozies. The first one isn't a cozy mystery, but it looks like a cozy, so you might want to know that if you're a cozy reader just going in. It's called Grave Reservations by Sherry Priest. But despite this not being a cozy mystery, as long as you're okay with like a little bit of language and darker themes, it wasn't too dark. It was still very lighthearted, but just a little bit, edgier. I think you'll love this. It takes place with a psychic travel agent. So basically, with her very hit or miss psychic abilities, she ends up saving the life of this police officer by rebooking his flight because the plane, something goes wrong with it, right? And he requests her help to help him with this cold case that he just can't solve, even if it's a very slim chance, because they're both kind of skeptical of her abilities, so it's very interesting. But it's so fun, and also her friend's boyfriend, I want to say, owns a bar, and she does clairvoyant karaoke. If that is not intriguing enough for you, I don't know what else to say because it was so fun. And the ending for this, absolutely so high stakes. I was on the edge of my seats. I flew through this. It was such a fun one. If you like Finley Donovan, this book is what I'd recommend. This really had similar Finley Donovan vibes to me. She's not a mom and she's not an author, of course, but it had similar vibes to me. So, and her best friend very much reminded me of, is it Vero or Vera? In Finley Donovan, so I really think if you like Finley Donovan, you would like this book by Sherry Priest. This morning, I finished Manslaughter Park by T.R. Price. This is I think it's a trilogy, so I think this series is complete, or it's the most recent release in the Jane Austen murder mystery series. This is a YA or young adult murder mystery series with retellings of famous Jane Austen novels. Now, I will say this, the only Jane Austen novel I've read is Pride and Prejudice, which was what the first book was based on. The other two I went into not knowing the characters, so I know some people who really love Manslaughter Park were not fans of how the author took liberties with this. So keep that in mind, but for me, not knowing anything about these characters, going into this fresh-eyed, I really liked this. It's a very fun retelling. It is a queer retelling, and our main character, Fanny, is an artist. This has a lot of interesting art knowledge in it, which I really liked. I really like how each of the characters, the main characters in this series, get their own bent. In Sense and Second Degree Murder, one was a scientist, one was a detective. In this one, she's an artist. I really enjoy that. I think it was really interesting. It flew by. This just has a very fun, witty, whimsical, just light-hearted writing style overall. It's not super graphic in any way, and I think if you like cozy mysteries in general, this would be pretty safe, and it's in that realm. It's historical. It's fun. If you're a stickler for accuracy with retellings, maybe not, but I did really enjoy all 3 books in the series, and I'm glad I read this one. Alright, and then just kind of a general mystery I read was by Mary Higgins Clark. This is I've Got My Eyes on You. I read this for Summerween. Basically, a teen girl is found murdered in her parents' pool right before summer, right after she graduates high school. This is a really good one for summer. It's very fast-paced. I think if you're an avid mystery reader, you're probably going to put together the who behind everything. But with that said, I just had so much fun with this. I think it was great. I really enjoyed her older sister. Her older sister is coming back to be a school counselor actually at the high school that she just graduated from, and she's the one who kind of takes the reins on the mystery and is the one poking around and trying to figure out what happened to her younger sister, who she's been away from for a few years. She's discovering secrets about her younger sister. There's also an interesting young man who's next door. He actually witnesses something about what happened to the victim, but he is intellectually disabled in some way, and it's difficult for him to kind of put into words what he saw, and his mom is also really protective of him and worried that people could misconstrue things or blame him, which I really understand. I thought it was handled very empathetically. I really enjoyed this. This is my third Mary Higgins Clark, and I'm really becoming a fast fan. Okay, next we have thrillers, and there were some doozies, there were some DNFs, there were some really great ones, so let's just dive right in. For starters, I would like to thank each and every one of you who recommended The Nothing Man to me by Catherine Ryan Howard. I read The Trap and loved it. Loved it, which I was a bit surprised about because I didn't like 56 Days, but so many of you were like, regardless of which one you liked or if you liked both, you were like, The Nothing Man is the one you want to read. Thank you for this recommendation. This book is fascinating. So at the age of 12, Eve Black is the only survivor of a family massacre. She's at home and the rest of her family is murdered. The rest of her family is murdered. She's the only survivor, and as an adult she's written a book now about her hunt to try to find out who did this, because this man is a serial killer. It looks like he's done this to other families. So you're reading excerpts from her book and like her research, then you're reading from her perspective, and then you're reading from the serial killer, alias the Nothing Man himself. And he realizes that Eve is getting dangerously close to figuring out who he is. I am beyond the ending for this. I almost fell out of my chair. It was so good. I am definitely now a Catherine Ryan Howard fan. You know, 56 Days and we didn't hit it off, that's fine, but the other two thrillers I've read from her have been like all-time favorites this year. So good. I'm gonna leave it at that. I think the less I say with thrillers, usually the better. Just read this, please. Okay, so let's get through a couple DNFs. I never liked speaking ill of a book, but I'm gonna give my quick opinion on why I ended up DNFing it or giving it 1 star. The Unwedding by Ali Condi. This had such a great premise. I included this in my recent new thriller release video. I'll link it above. Basically, this woman, she's just had an unexpected divorce, and she goes on this extravagant trip to this resort on this very like beachy island. She's not super excited about the trip because this was supposed to be her and her husband's anniversary trip, but her husband dropped a bomb on her basically and was like, hey, I'm divorcing you. So she's just reeling from that. She's grieving the loss of her marriage and her existing life. And while she's there, there is a bridal party that's because the wedding's about to happen, and the groom ends up murdered, and they get trapped there due to like some flooding and this giant storm and everything. So I love the fact that it's isolation mystery. You're really like trapped in there. I love that it's like a resort setting. I love the wedding drama. The first half of this was great. By the second half, I was so fed up with our main character, who is, I think she's like in her 40s. She was so immature. I was getting so annoyed with her. I thought there were so many liberties taken with how this main character figured things out at the end. I was like, and how did you figure that out? Like, it just didn't make sense to me personally. And it felt like no one else could figure things out except the main character, even though other people are actively trying to. And then at the end, she was the one who magically like came to this conclusion. I was like, wait, what? I don't know. I didn't love it. I thought it was kind of all over the place. I thought it kind of lagged or dragged a little bit in the middle, and I thought the setup was so good, but the plot delivery was not there for me. Another one I was so excited to read and was on my most anticipated was Missing White Woman by Kelly Garrett. And I think this author and I were just not compatible because I've tried one cozy mystery from her as well, and I ended up DNFing it as well. But I thought, you know, let me try the thriller because it sounds super interesting, and didn't love it. This basically, it's so interesting. This woman is going to stay with her boyfriend who's like in town for this like business trip, and she and him have a nice night. She goes down, her boyfriend isn't there, and she finds the missing white woman who's all over the news. This explores like the idea of missing white woman syndrome. And she finds that woman who's been missing dead in the kitchen of the place they're staying, and her boyfriend is nowhere to be found. And she starts freaking out, like, did my boyfriend do this? What is going on? And again, this had such promise, but just things kind of, the plot didn't stick for me. I did get farther into this. I think I got about 2/3 of the way into this, but I just wasn't enjoying myself. I ended up skipping to the end to kind of see how it came together, and I was disappointed with how it came together. Now, a young adult thriller I read. I'm starting to get a little bit more into some young adult, and I'm thinking this one was good. Do I think it's like a masterpiece in terms of plot? No, but did I have a really fun time with it? Absolutely. This is called Their Vicious Games by Joel Wellington. I love the cover. I think it's super, super scary. So this is a debut, and it's about Adina Walker. She's on a scholarship to this very elite prep school, but she ends up losing that because of some unfortunate events, basically. She's invited to this high-stakes contest by this very wealthy family, and anyone who gets to that contest will basically get whatever they want. Like, there's very little known about it. It's very elusive. If you like reality TV or crazy game type thrillers, this one definitely took the cake for that. It's definitely unrealistic, it's definitely out there, but I had fun with it. So I'd say like a 3.5 for me. I definitely would be interested in looking at more from this author. Hi guys, I'm back a little bit later. My camera died and I have it charged now, so we're gonna go ahead and continue with the next thriller, which made me so claustrophobic. This one made me feel like the walls were closing in and I will never look at glass the same way. And that is House of Glass by Sarah Pekkanen. And I checked this out, or bought this I should say, from the Book of the Month subscription. This was my pick for this month. And I actually wasn't so sure about this thriller at first. I didn't know if I would love it. It sounded interesting, but I don't know, something about the synopsis didn't grab me as much as I thought. But this book itself was so fantastic. And I love the little detail here on the back, the broken looking glass. So we have two kind of primary characters. We have Rose Barclay, who is a 9-year-old girl who watched her nanny fall from through a glass window to her death. And then we have Stella, who is, what is it? She is the best interest attorney. So she basically is handling the divorce between Rose's parents, and she's supposed to act in the best interest of the child and kind of assess the home environment, who would be the best like caretaker, whether that's full-time, like how would the time should be split. So she's there to represent Rose, and she starts to look into the mystery of the nanny's death and suspects it might have actually been murder. This was really gripping. The atmosphere for this was great. It was very like claustrophobic, like you just feel like the home, like this huge estate. It's a very like wealthy family. You just feel like everything's coming in on you. It was so good. I really enjoyed this. One, I'm gonna say 3 stars. Just about. Like, it wasn't not enjoyable, but I just didn't love it, and it felt kind of crazy at the end, and I was like, I don't know. And then parts of it I thought was kind of obvious. It's called You Can Trust Me by Wendy Hurd, and this is the cover. I thought this was perfect for summer because it just screams summer on here. So we have 2 best friends in this. We have Summer and Leo, and both of them are like nomadic. They've traveled together throughout the state of California, and they're scammers basically. They pickpocket, they scam from like rich people, stuff like that, to make their way in the world, and they're both in their 20s. One's kind of taking the other under her wing, kind of as a big sister. She's a few years older, and I like their friendship a lot. I really liked learning about how they got to where they are. I like learning about scams. Like, I find it just very interesting, like how people pull them off, or just to have the gall to pickpocket. Like, I would break out in a nervous sweat even thinking about it near other people, you know? So it fascinates me in like kind of a strange way. But basically in this one of them tries to scam a billionaire, and it goes wrong. Like, they go missing on this exclusive island that the billionaire owns, and so the other friend takes off to try to find her friend on this island, and it's very harrowing. So parts that I liked about this, I loved the female friendship, I loved the backstory and the scamming like information, and just the perspective that these ladies had was very interesting. But I feel like some of the bigger plot lines in this towards the end just kind of felt like, I don't know, they weren't satisfying to me for one reason or another. I can't go into it too much without revealing things, but I just wasn't super satisfied with it. And there's like a backstory from the characters, and I just was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if it was really convincing of me. I don't know. If you read this, I would love to hear your thoughts. I thought overall it was still fun. Like, I had a good time reading it. It just wasn't a knockout for me. Okay, so this next one I DNF'd. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because the topic was just too heavy for me. So if this topic sounds interesting to you and you're in a good place to read something that's very political and very like emotionally heavy, I think you would really enjoy this. I'm just not, it was just too heavy for me. I was like, I can't read this right now, it's too much. And that's called Blood Sisters by Vanessa Lilly. So this one explores the really sad reality about women and girls on Native American reservations going missing or being murdered, and their deaths just not being taken seriously or the same amount of effort being put into them to investigate and bring people to justice. And our main character in this is Sid. She is a Cherokee archaeologist and she works for like a very big bureau, and she is all the way in Rhode Island, but she's called back home to Oklahoma where her roots are, where she actually survived as like a teenager this really violent attack, and one of her friends I think didn't make it. She's called back there because a skull is discovered, and she, like her supervisors and stuff, think she might be able to connect more to townspeople and try to bring justice to what happened. And I just personally found this too heartbreaking, just too realistic. For me, I like thrillers that are a little bit more like crazy, like reality TV, like this wouldn't happen, or it's like really outrageous. And just the fact that this does happen was what was making this so hard to read. And then it definitely had a lot of dark details in it. And then we also just had a lot of politics and bureaucracies and the different divisions like fighting or not working together to like solve things, and that was just really frustrating to me. And I know that's unfortunately probably a reality, but it just was bringing me down emotionally a lot. So again, I think the writing for this was gorgeous. I think the idea for this, the plot line and everything that I had read through it was really good. It was too heavy for me. That's just honestly why I had to put it aside. It was just weighing on my heart too much, honestly. Which I think means the author did a good job because she's bringing to light this very serious issue. Okay, and then I read a couple of new release popular author thrillers for my summer reading blog. Again, I will link that above for you. I read One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. 5 stars. Ruth Ware is back for me. I didn't love 0 Days. It was fine. I thought It Girl was good but not amazing. I loved The Death of Miss Westaway. I loved One by One, and In the Dark Woods I think was really good too. So I'm happy to see, I think she's kind of returning to some of her roots a little bit more with at least the writing I really love. This one involves a reality TV show called One Perfect Couple. The idea is it's like combining like Survivor with like Love Island. I'm not really familiar with Love Island, but I think they're like couples, something like that. And our main character is like a scientist, and she is going with her actor boyfriend who wants to go on the show for exposure onto this TV show, and then they get stranded with the other contestants. There's this big storm. It's very much like a survivalist thriller, so there was a lot of things about like food hoarding and like dehydration, stuff like that, so keep that in mind. But I found it to be very interesting, the social dynamics amongst the people as they were on this island fighting for their lives. So I found that to be very interesting. I'd say like a good 4.5 to 5 stars for me. The other one I really enjoyed was The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. I've seen mixed things about this. I would say this is definitely a slower burn thriller. Like, it did take me about 50 pages to really get swooped in, but this one takes place at a luxury resort in the middle of the woods, and there's this legend about the birds in the area. And also, if you've read this, the ending, the final like couple paragraphs, I loved it. I loved what she did with that. I thought that was so clever. Anyways, you're following multiple points of views, as is very classic Lucy Foley. There are different points of views, like very rich people, the lady behind the resort. You're reading from one of the employees' perspectives. You're reading from a guest who's kind of incognito, who is not quite who she says she is, and you find out why. And I just love how all these stories came together and how things are going wrong at the resort. It was just a classic Lucy Foley fun time, and I'm here for it. So I really enjoyed that. Good, like 4.5 stars for me. Not my favorite. I like The Guest List and The Paris Apartment more, but still a very strong read. And then lastly, In the Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I really enjoyed this. Now, I think I enjoyed it more when I first finished it. Looking back, I think I said this in my summer reading vlog, but I was a little let down with how everything was wrapped up. I felt like it was a little bit of a really easy way to wrap things up. I don't know, it just wasn't as satisfying. It was very high stakes, so I'll give that. But this one basically takes place in this suburb neighborhood, and we have these two boys in the backyard of one of their parents' homes. They're camping out there in a tent, and one of them, Billy, goes missing in the middle of the night, never to be seen or heard from again. We fast forward, and this man is like, I think he's like, it's like 30 years later, he's like almost 40 or something, or just about 40, and he is coming back to his hometown because his parents are selling his childhood home, which is the home with the backyard where Billy disappeared. And he's kind of trying to figure this out. It's definitely slow burn. There's definitely some kind of spooky elements, which I liked. I thought the atmosphere was really good. I really liked the exploration of neighbor dynamics with this. And there's also some creepy things happening in the woods nearby, which I'd wanted a little bit more from. I would have loved if it went a little bit more into that side of things, but I still found it very interesting nonetheless, and it's definitely a good Riley Sager. Not my all-time favorite, but a good one. Alright guys, that is everything. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. I hope you enjoyed this reading wrap-up. Please let me know down below, have you read any of these books? What were your thoughts on them? Even if they're different than my own, I always love to hear your opinion, because that's what makes reading fun, is we have different opinions at times. I'd also love to know if you read any knockout reads in July. What would you recommend? Your recommendations always are so good. Thank you again for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post new book content every week on my channel, especially within the mystery, thriller, and cozy genres, so if you like any of those, you'll probably like my channel. Thank you again. I'm Amy Marie, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!